right, I just clicked the button. So welcome everybody to another quilting business success. And
Yes.
today we have Denise Freed with us, as
Hi.
well as co-host Bobby Ware, and I'm Andrew Weaver.
Hello.
Hi there.
And we are we are the cold crew today because we were just talking about the snowstorm that is happening here in Missouri. It's supposed to be, I've heard rumors of up to 15 inches of snow, which is hard to believe, but it might materialize. It's coming down hard, and a snowplow just went by. And Denise, where are you at?
I'm in Mandan, North Dakota, and our temperature this morning was minus 31 degrees without
My,
the wind chill.
okay, now the town name broke up. So where is it again?
Mandan,
Mandan. Okay, North Dakota.
we're like the sister next to Bismarck, which is the capital, just across the river.
Okay.
So Denise is looking at us panicking over the 15 inches of snow and just kind of smirking.
A little bit. I do like a good snow day, though.
Well, Denise, we're really glad to have you here with us. Let's start out. Can you tell us how long have you been long arm quilting?
Um, I bought my first machine in 2019, and I started quilting. So 3.5 years, I've been long arming.
Mhm. Okay. I noticed the audio cut out there real quick, and I don't know what's going on,
What's
but
going on?
you said yeah, I don't know if we can fix it at this point. I don't know. It's weird because it was just working and then you faded out to nothing. But
Hmm.
I know you didn't change your speech,
Nope.
so we'll see if it gets better as we go along here. So you got your first machine 3.5 years ago, and
Well, I got it in 2019.
oh, in 2019. Okay.
Yeah. And then I didn't start quilting.
Oh, 2021 is when you started quilting for customers. Okay. Got it. So, what machine is the machine you have now, the first original machine, or have you done any upgrades or changes to it?
So the first one I bought was one of the Quilting with Confidence machines, and I got it when I was at Houston at the International Quilt Show. And it's a Statler, and I'm using that one here at home. And then we went to Houston this year, and another one followed me home. I have Ascend that is now in my shop in town. Um, and so I have two that I try to keep busy.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
fantastic.
So, Denise, how, what was the journey that, how did you discover long arm quilting in the first place at these 3.5 years ago?
Well, I
Oh,
started
5 years
quilting when
ago.
I was in 2024 or 20, yeah, 2004. And I quilted by checkbook. I had a very awesome long arm quilter that quilted for me. And I did a lot of quilts every year. And when I would sit down at tax time and figure out how much I spent on quilting, it was kind of shocking how much. And so I was talking to my husband one day before we went to Houston, and I said, if I can get a machine, I'm going to try to do it and just see if I like it. And I'll at least get the 30, 40 that I have sitting at home quilted and not have to maybe pay as much for them. And then I found out that I liked it. A year and a half after I got my machine, I decided, okay, let's open this up to friends and see what happens. And here we are.
Interesting. Were you when you first got your machine and you were doing just your 30 or 40 quilts that you had sitting in the house
Mhm.
at the moment,
Yep.
did you have a regular full-time job you're doing at that time? And then did you make a transition out of that or?
No, I still am working full-time, physician assistant. And I've been in practice for 31 years. And right now I'm doing long-term care. And so it's a nice flexible job where I do rounding in the morning and I have my afternoons free. And so I was able to have the shop in town where I can go into and work there and make it easier for me. And then I'm using my one in town or at my home for my custom quilting because that always seems to take longer. And then I'm not tying up the machine and I'm getting more work done for customers without them having to.
So you have your two machines in two different locations, is that correct?
Yes, I do. Yep.
One is at your home and one is at your business?
Right, right. My husband has a flooring business in Mandan and he cleaned out a room for up and we put the long arm in there. Now we can go to work together and come home together and yeah, it works nice.
Let me ask you, Denise, how did you decide upon getting a Gammill machine specifically?
I had looked at a few different ones. And then when I was in Houston, I went around to the different booths and I just like some of the features of Gammill. I knew I wanted computer free motion person. I strictly used the computer and watching, I had a couple of good people that sat down with me and showed me what it could do and just felt right. So I went with the Gammill.
Mhm. So, how did you find customers to grow your business?
Uh, First, I mean, I belong to a very supportive guild, the Badland Quilters, and they've kind of taken me on as their quilter. And it's nothing for some of them to drop off 2, 3 quilts at a time, or we have a meeting and I'm bringing 4 or 5 quilts back with me. And so they've kind of helped with this. And then word of mouth, other people will see what I've done and they're able to get a hold of me. So right now I have about 65 regular customers that I quilt for, and it's from all over the state. And even some, I have one gal that sends me quilts from Colorado Springs. Her and one of my friends meet up about twice a year, and so they do the travel and pick up, and one's the donkey and brings them to me. So
Yeah. Well, I actually I've done quite a bit of service out in your area in the far-flung reaches, and I know that there's quite a quilter grapevine underground railroad of quilts.
there is.
Um, and somebody will be doing an all-day drive from one town to another, and they'll schlep a couple quilts for somebody to get them to or from the long arm quilter.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
And I
The
do that when I go to retreats. I'm bringing to or from, so it works out well.
Yeah. Don't forget to write off all those miles.
No, I got to keep track of those.
Hey, Denise, I may have missed it in the conversation. Now you have the two machines. You started out with the one, and how long had you had that machine until you got the second one?
5 years.
Okay, so it's been fairly recently you got the second one.
Right. I got it set up in December.
And was the reason that you got the second one was that due to relative success with the first one?
Yeah, I decided I needed something that I could do quicker turnaround for the edge to edge. I always felt like if I had a custom on, I had 2 or 3 people that were waiting for something. And since I put the machine in town, um, I'm doing 4 to 5 quilts a week. Basically, I'm working from maybe 1:32 in the afternoon till 5. and I'm able to get those done. And then on the weekends, I can the custom ones here at home
Hmm.
And you
One
said
of
4 to 5 quilts per how often?
for about every 4 days, 5 days. So I'm usually
Wow.
averaging one a day.
Wow.
mhm.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been nice to be able to every week have 3 or 4 coming off the machine and ready to go out. I was behind about close to starting to makes
Oh,
me feel better.
you're cutting out a little. You said you were behind how much?
About 40 quilts.
Oh, yeah. Did that make you feel a little anxious?
A little bit, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Because you know, my customers are very good. They understand that I have a full-time job and this is something I do on the side. And so they work with me. And if I need to get one done sooner, I will take off. I've got the zippered leader and enders, so I'm able to switch out if I need to and get a quick one on and get it done. And but now it's made it so much easier having the machine in town because that's strictly edge to edge. And I
Hmm.
usually take 3 to 4 quilts in with me every week on Monday and hope by bringing them home or having them picked up by Friday.
So, especially when you got your second machine, what was the real indication to you that there would be enough quilts for you to do to make it worth it? Because a machine like the Statler or the Statler Ascend, it declines in value by around $1,100 a year. And so this asset that you have, in 10
Mhm.
years from now, it'll be worth $12,000 less than what you paid for it. So you need to
Right.
make sure that you have enough quilts coming through, to make it worth having that and the space that it takes. So
Mhm.
what was the kind of indicator to you that there was plenty of quilts to do?
Just as how many I had backed up and knowing my quilting friends and how prolific they are at quilting and, you know, even just my own. I mean, I have stack to be finished and I retire in about 2.5 my day job. And so nothing else, I'll have 2 to get all the ones done that my kids are waiting for. So,
And
and
you're
and they it's you say they depreciate a little bit, but I've never had problems as far as service or anything. And so I'm like, if someone's going to be he's going to be starting out and they'll be ready to uh, look for a used machine, and
Hmm.
hopefully I'll have 1 or 2 for them to sell.
Hmm. Well,
and
and
Denise,
the
uh, uh,
oh,
you go
sorry,
ahead.
Bobby. Well,
No,
I
you
was
go.
just going to wrap one little thing up there because we do tell people to expect them to depreciate by about, between $1,000 and $1,200 a year, because of
Mm-hmm.
course everybody would rather have a new one, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll take one that's 5 or 10 years old or whatever if the price is lower. And I was uh, I was looking at the price list earlier today of the pre-love machines that we have for sale, and it occurred to me that one of the ones I was looking at on the list, um, that was priced at 34,999, and of course
Mm-hmm.
somebody's going to snatch it up.
Yep.
Um, when that machine was new, the list price on it was 29,999. So we're actually selling it for 5,000 more 12 years later. But there's
With
been
the
a wee bit of inflation since then.
yes. And
But
both of my machines are pre-loved. I mean, one was from Quilting with Confidence, and this was a pre-loved one. Um, I bought it in Houston, and I've never had problems.
mhm,
I think that's the way to go sometimes.
mhm. So Bobby, you had a question.
Well, as Denise was talking, the audio cut out for just a moment when she was mentioning something about retirement plans. And I know for a lot of the people that are watching this podcast, they may be interested in that particular aspect. Were you talking about retiring from your traditional job at some point in the future?
Yes,
And yeah.
I plan to retire in about 2.5 years. And at that time, since we've got the business in town, I would be going in and helping answer phones and things like that. And so I just plan to quilting in town until he decides to retire. So, which knowing his family, it could be another years, who knows?
Gotcha.
So Denise, how do you have your quilting rates structured? And as somebody who does what sounds like a lot of custom, I'm interested not just in your edge to edge rate, but your
Mhm.
how you do your custom quilting as well.
Okay, my edge to edge is normally 2.5 cents a square inch. And depending on sometimes out, I might bump it to 3 cents. My custom, I start out at 5 cents. And then that just depends on if it's, since I'm strictly computerized, having to place a design into each little part of a block, that's going to be a little bit more than if I can put a design in a whole block instead of each section of a block. And so my customs usually run about 250 to maybe 350, 400 for a queen size, depending on what all I have to do for them. And I know I'm probably a little cheaper than some of the ones that do free motion and things, but I always want to do a job that I would appreciate getting. And if I don't like it, you're not getting it.
Hmm.
And Denise, how many do you know about how many quilts you've been averaging per year?
Um, I would say close to 50 before I got the second machine. So
But now she's doing more or less one a day.
one a day when I'm at the shop. Yeah.
Hmm.
Now
And
these last two
working full
days,
time also,
what's that?
and working full time at the same time with your other job.
So not a lot of sleep goes on the weekend.
So do you have things like batting for sale or wide back fabrics or anything else, or do people have to bring that all?
I do have batting. I usually carry the 80/20, white and natural. And then I also have wool available for larger quilts. And I'm thinking about getting a poly blend for some of these minky quilts that I've been doing and seeing how that works out.
Hmm.
And Denise, as you look back on these last 5 years, and I mean you're still in a state of motion, with your business, but um, can you think of what would be the hardest part that you have faced thus far of growing your business?
Growing the business it doesn't seem like it's been hard. Like I said, I have friends that are very supportive, and they talk me up when they're at other places, and that's how I've gotten a lot of customers. For me, it's just the time. Some days when we're real busy at work and I can't get to the shop and get a quilt going, or that kind of tears into things. And then you have those family obligations, this and that. And so it's just the time factor, I think, has been the hardest for me to just carve that out. And this, having the two machines, has made it a lot easier. And I don't feel as stressed because I'm getting things caught up and um, not feeling like I'm falling off the train.
Have you yet had any like difficulties dealing with a customer, or a difficult job, or any bad experience with anything like that?
Not really. We all get those quilts every once in a while, great, or maybe have a little wave. I try to talk with the customers if I do run into that problem and kind of give them some pointers on what they can do to maybe not have that big of a problem lately. And I'm really lucky. The gals that I quilt for, they are fantastic. I mean, they're everything's straight, it seems like. I haven't really had any that I been real upset about. The most upset I've ever gotten is when I loaded the backing wrong and uh, ended up short. And so I add to the backing while it's on the Statler and it works.
Mhm. That's a hard lesson to learn.
Yep. And now I measured twice.
I think everybody makes that mistake at least once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was wondering, I'm wondering a few different things actually. Uh, so you mentioned that your husband is, there working as well, and you feel like he's never going to retire. He's just going to keep working and keep working. Um, has what has his opinion been of you and your quilting business?
He is my one of my biggest supporters. When I started talking about getting it was never, oh, do you think maybe not? No. It was like, if you want one, go get it. And when we were talking about taking over the business from his folks this year, and I said, it'd be nice to move one into town. Going to Houston, why don't you look and see what they have? And it just followed me home, and he just, you know, he's okay with it. In fact, he brought me a cold Coke before because he knew I was going to be nervous while we were doing this. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, he's
Well,
just supportive.
he's a smart man. He knows that if you're happy, his chances of being happy are much better.
They are. And, he built me a couple of quilt hammocks to put under my so that they don't lay on the floor. And I mean, he's just been real supportive. Talked me
Mhm.
into getting a bigger TV up here, just little things. And when I got my sewing studio up here, I was planning to be in the basement, and my husband asked me if I would want my studio above the garage he was building. And I was like, well, how big would that be? He's like, oh, about 1,100 square feet. And I'm like, well, do you think that's big enough? Obviously, I can tell you if you're off. And he built me this awesome studio. And most weekends, he has to come visit.
Could could you repeat that last piece that you were saying? I didn't hear the last
You
couple of
said you
sentences.
said most weekends he what?
He has to come visit me up here as I'm sitting up in the studio working and sewing and
Hmm.
quilting.
Awesome. And Andrew, your electronic setup may be a bit more conducive to mine to check the Q&A questions. I think there's a few that are on there.
Oh,
And
you know what? There are, and I was not looking. And I'm going to go to that right now. And meanwhile, if there's anybody that had a question that they wanted to say, you can certainly do that in the Q&A. I'm sure we'll have at least one here that is just related to the audio cutting out. And unfortunately, there's not a good way to deal with that I know of. Um, so, Lorraine asked about the number of quilts that you're doing. She had heard you say that you were doing 4 to 5 quilts in 4 days. And Lorraine's question was if that was only on basically on one of your machines.
So, yes, in town, I the last week I did 4 quilts. And usually what I do is I have one set up and ready to go when I get there. And usually I can get about half to 2/3 of it done before we leave for the evening. And then when I come in, I finish that one. Friday.
hang on. You cut out a little bit. So you get half to two-thirds of it done before you go home. And then what was the last part? Oh, shoot. It cut out again. It seems like this darn thing is getting worse. I don't know what it
I know.
is.
I'm looking to see here. Let me see. If there's anything that I can change.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen just about every Zoom bug or error that there is, but this is kind of a new one on me. I've not had it fade out like that before and come back. It
Okay,
may be
let's,
something that's just unique to the device.
yeah,
I don't
Um,
think we're going to fix it during this meeting.
no.
yeah.
But
So
on
you,
average, it's about 3 to 4 that I get done in the week
yeah,
in
and
town. And then usually, um, hopefully one to uh, custom will come off about every
yeah, okay. Custom comes off every week or so.
week, sometimes a little longer, depending how big they are. The one I
Yeah,
just loaded tonight is 97 by 104. That's going to take me a little bit.
yeah, yeah. So the between the custom and the edge to edge, um, well, we had a question from Sylvia, and just to clarify on what machine you have, one of your machines is a Gammill Statler, and the other one is a Statler Ascend.
Right. And my
Okay,
one at home is a 26-inch, the one in town is 30.
one in town is a 30-inch. Okay, all right. Um, Interesting. One of the ladies, she's excited to hear your story. She says she's also working full time and looking forward to retire. And once she's retired, she's going to do long arm quilting with her husband. So she's dialed
I
into
can't
your story.
I can't wait to the 2 years.
2 years till you can quit going to the clinic or wherever you work. Yeah. Um, so just curious, can you think of a change in technology or anything that makes things easier today than when you first started? And the one that came to mind for me might have been if your first machine uh, didn't come with our training program, and then your second one did come with training program. But I don't know, maybe that's one thing I thought of, but maybe there's what's been significant for you that's made it easier.
So with my first one, I learned a lot on my own. I watched videos. I think I watched every video Gammill had before my machine got there. And then I belonged to some skill and the academy. And, whenever I have a question, I'm always reaching out to others and asking, how do I do this? And so when I got the Ascend,
Oh, you
uh,
cut out again. So when you got the Ascend, what?
it was just easy transition. There's been,
Oh,
I just have to get used to it sewing faster than my other one does. It kind of freaks me out once in a while when it's going so fast and I feel like, oh, I have to slow this down, but I don't. It sews amazing.
Have
yeah.
you been pretty happy with the difference in the difference in speed that the Ascend gives you?
Yes, yes, especially doing the edge to edges.
Hmm.
And Denise, through this journey that you've been on, would you say, who or what group of people or person has been your biggest cheerleader or support system?
I would say my husband number, and then my close group of friends that I have in the guild that push me to try new things. I have a couple of them that give me their quilts and say, go to town, do whatever you want. Let me play and, you know, learn how to tear out because I didn't like it. To do a little bit of ripping to get it out, but I started all over and did it again. So I think that's my biggest thing is don't be scared to.
Can you
You
repeat
said
There's,
that?
don't be
I
scared to
said,
what?
don't be scared to jump in and learn the machines. like I said, I don't, it hasn't been a problem for me so far.
hmm hmm So, can you tell about what kind of impact, you haven't been quilting for a business that long, but do
Mhm.
you have anything to say to people about the impact of the quilting money? I mean, obviously you get checks when you
I
finish
do.
quilts.
Yep. It has been nice. I haven't had to cut into our personal accounts anymore for retreats or travel. I'm able to use that monies, and I've also expand different things. You know, when I started buying my own batting, I didn't have to take that out of personal account, and it's been nice. I mean, I haven't made what I'm sure some long arm. Last year was like $12,000. 12,000 I didn't have before, and it made it easy to go different places. And
hmm Yeah, so that point is well taken that, with your best year being 12,000, it may not seem like a lot to other people, but it's 12,000 you didn't have before. Yeah.
exactly,
And that is while
Yeah.
she's working a separate full-time job.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing that I wanted to ask you is there something that you wish somebody would have told you back when you first started? And I don't know if you want to take that as when you got your first machine, like when you were picking out that first machine at the show there in Houston, or maybe some other idea, something you wish somebody would have told you.
I doubted myself that I would be, and that cut out again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I doubted myself. I didn't think I was going to be a long arm quilter. I figured I was buying this machine and I was just going to do it for myself. And when I found out how easy it was to work with Gammill and work with the staff, it made it a no brainer. I told friends if they wanted to bring some quilts, let me practice on them, I would do that for them. And nothing has really scared me ever since then. But, you know, if someone would have told me 10 years ago that I was going to long arm, I would have laughed at them because I didn't know I could do it by the computer. Kind of a computer nerd, kind of like. I like to figure out how to do things different each time and quicker. So,
hmm That's
So you've
probably
developed
part.
self-confidence throughout this journey.
what's that?
So you've developed some self-confidence throughout this journey.
I have. And I look at quilt shows different now. I'm not looking at the quilt anymore. I'm looking at the quilting, which going from Houston in 2019 to Houston in 2020. More of my pictures are of close-ups of what people did on different quilts than the actual quilt itself, because that's what my interest is.
hmm I have a question from the audience again asking about when you were doing practice quilts for your friends, just kind of making that leap over into doing paid work. Um, did you charge your friends for those quilts? And if so, how much?
I did. They wanted me to charge them, and I square inch because that's where I had read something somewhere. And then as I did more research and stuff, I adjusted my rates, and I've had not had anyone yet look at me and say, ooh, that wasn't what I was expecting. But I also will tell people ahead of time, you know, your quilt is this big. If I do edge to edge, this is what it's going to cost. If you
hmm
want me to do borders and border to border, this is the rate and this is what it'll
hmm
customize it. This is what it'll cost. And I like to keep them informed so that they know that, you know, what they're getting and what they're what to expect when they
Oh yeah.
come to pick it up.
It doesn't matter what you're talking about. Nobody likes a surprise with the price unless it's a lower price than you were expecting. That's the only kind of surprise that people like.
Yeah, I had a couple quilts when I was paying by checkbook that when I went to pick them up, I was like, oh, take that deep breath. Hope the person that's getting it realizes, what you put into it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think
And that's also a place where communication before, during, and after is probably an important thing.
Mm-hmm. I do send all my customers my ideas on how I want to quilt something. I'll do it in standalone, and I will mock up part of a custom, or I will mock up an edge to edge and send them 2-3 different ideas and options they can have a part in. It seems to work well. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Denise, so you started with your long arming, what was it, 5 years ago?
Yep, 2019.
What advice? There's a lot of people that are watching this now and will be watching that are debating on which direction they're going to take with regard to this. And so my question to you is, what advice would you give somebody who wants to follow the path that you've taken or wants to do some of the things that you've talked about doing today? Do you think that in this day and age that it is still possible to be successful in quilting?
what I would first say is if they have a friend that does long arm quilting, or they're able to go watch and learn, some of the aspects of it. I've had a couple friends that have come out and watched how I loaded and how I get things started. I had one friend that came out to see how the weekend, just to see if she wanted to upgrade to a computerized machine because she did everything free motion. And, so I just do your homework, go and look at each of the machines. One of my friends that comes here and sews once a month with me, she bought a smaller machine with a different company because she didn't need a big machine because she does basically wall hangings and does it all freehand. And so she had watched me do enough that she kind of knew what she wanted. And
The last sentence there we just lost, Denise.
I said, just don't be scared.
Just
That's
don't
your
be
dream.
scared.
Do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think your story is a really good example of how somebody can be very successful even in a very rural area. Like
Yes.
where you are is you've got not a lot of population.
Right. And I mean, I do live in the capital, and there is other long arm quilters in the area, and I'm good friends with some of the long arm quilters, and we all seem to be busy. Whatever niche you get into, and
Mm-hmm.
You all seem to be what?
Busy.
have our own niche, and we're able to keep busy.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Let me check the questions again. I think we might have any more here. Let's see. So on the quilts that you did for your friends, you didn't know how much to charge at that time, and you adjusted your rates later, but what was your rate for those very first ones, which was
The very
probably too
first
cheap?
ones was 2 cents a square inch.
2 cents. All right. Well, that wasn't too cheap. I thought you were
No,
gonna, I thought
nope.
you might have done them for a penny an inch.
Nope, nope.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends are they like to challenge me. I've had every kind of backing you could imagine. I've done chenille, I've done minky, I've done tapestry, I've done denim, and they always, let's see. And if I can't, we'll figure it out some other way. And so I just do it, and it's worked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you done T-shirts?
I have done t-shirts. I've done quite a few. I've made t-shirt quilts for all my nieces and nephews, and I've quilted 4 of them. Um, and I don't have a problem.
Mm-hmm. Have you had people ask you to do binding?
They've asked me, but that is one thing that I don't get done on my own. If I could find someone that would do my bindings, I would be a happy person.
Awesome.
Say, I'm not going to do your bindings. I want you to do my bindings.
All right.
Stack that should get done one of these.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a quilt in the closet that I put the binding on, but I did it by machine, and I really wished for it to be, hand turned or needle turn or whatever. And so I've got to find somebody to do it, and I'll have to pull it off. But
Yeah, that's me. I liked it, the look of the hand binding, but I have arthritis in my hands, and it just takes a long time for me to do a binding. And so one of these days it'll get done.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Denise, thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining us today and answering those questions. I believe that the reason that we do this is that well, actually, I mean, just going back to the beginning of this show, I had been driving long, long miles. I don't know what state I was in. I think it was Montana. And I was reflecting over the thousands of people that I've talked to over the years who told me their story. And many times they transform their life, by becoming a business owner, by occupying this kind of special place in their community of being one of those people that finishes the quilts. And I thought to myself, these stories of people's life journey really should be told
Yeah.
and recorded. And that was when we started doing this. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on here and share your experiences so that hopefully others will find that courage to take the step and step into something pretty good.
It
Pretty
is.
good.
And I've got granddaughters that are coming up the way, and my oldest granddaughter, or not the oldest, the second oldest, she's made 3 quilts now for 4-H, and the last one she quilted on her own using my Statler. We did an edge to edge and computerized, but she loaded and did all the work, and I'm just hoping that'll just get passed on then.
Yeah, next
Yeah.
generation.
Oh, there's no better feeling.
Yeah.
Before we go, Denise, I do want to. Is there any way that the people that are watching or listening to this might be able to contact you or find you? Or
Well, do you have a website or are you on Facebook?
I don't have a website. I do have my Facebook page, which is my personal one, but all you ever see on there is basically grandkids or quilts. But they can find me at Denise Chase Freed on Facebook, and I'd be happy to talk to any questions or
Awesome.
pick your brain.
can you spell that web page out?
Well, it's Denise and then Chase, did you say?
Chase, yep, Chase, Chase, Freed, Fried, and it's my Facebook. And if you ask to be friends with me, and if there's some place where you can show me that you're a quilter, then I usually.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much, Denise, for joining us. and sharing your story. I believe we'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. So thank you, everybody, and good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.